pathways and making well-informed decisions about their future. So I'm sure her insights are going to be incredibly valuable for everyone that is present here today. And over to you, Prakti ma'am. I'm just gonna keep myself on mute and shut my camera.
Yeah, if you can, just, take me to the next slide, then we can
Sure.
start from there. Okay. Since we have just around roughly 20-25 minutes, I would dive deep into the topic, and I would request all of you to ask questions, comments, whatever you want to say. It's more of a discussion, so you can put things in the chat box, and I have it open so I can keep on answering, through the chat box as well as I speak. So the topic is, that why has it become so confusing all of a sudden? Why do we feel that, studies has become, more, difficult, or accessing different kinds of education after school has become more challenging, not in terms of admissions, but in terms of decision making. Um, as we were discussing earlier, COVID came and it made us, stop and think, that what are the things which are really important to us, whether health is more important, whether money is more important, whether my sibling is more important. So I think, we started thinking out of the box all of a sudden, rather than following, the traditional ways of looking at education. And then the recent geopolitical changes in the Middle East also made us, stop and think that, our decision has to be more, thought through. It has to be more rigorous. There have to be more stakeholders involved. There has to be more conversations around it. Why? Because there's a constant observation that all of us have, whether we are students, whether we are counselors, whether we are parents. And we hear that, we see that today again, you are listening, that the visa rules are changing constantly around the world. So, what if I am applying to X country, and that's my dream country that I want to go to and study? And in this X country, this is University YZ, which is my favorite and top choice, and I get admitted. But the visa regulations have changed, and I may or may not be able to go. So that is also, affecting our decision making as to, should I just apply to, YZ University, or should I look at AB as well, which is in country C, right? So another angle of, deciding has come in, because we feel it's risky. What if I'm denied a visa? Then I might not be able to go anywhere and end up in a gap year, not by choice, but because there was no other option, because I didn't think of another option. So visa rules have become different, they have changed, and hence that has also come into the conversation, which was not there 5 6 years back, right? The cost of education has changed drastically because of the currency fluctuation. So, $1 now, from what I checked 2 days back, was around 94, 95 rupees. Whereas if I think of, say, 10 years back, $1 was somewhere around 60, 65, right? Don't catch me on my accuracy, but the change has been immense. So something which might have cost me, 10 lakh rupees a few years back is maybe costing me 20 lakh rupees because of the currency changes which have happened. Maybe my home country currency has become stronger or weaker, right? So that has also come into play. So I'm a parent myself. I have two children going into grade 11, and the finances that I had planned all of a sudden is not enough for certain countries. So currency fluctuation has brought about that change, because after converting, the money is not enough, right? So that's come into the picture. That's what we are thinking about. Hence, it is risky, right? I might think that I want to send to a country where the cost of education will be roughly, say, 50,000 US dollars. Earlier it was possible, but now with the new currency conversion, it's a huge difference. I might not be able to afford. So that makes it risky to depend on only one country, right? The admission requirements are changing. It's changing on a daily basis. For example, a few years back, a certain university in a certain country would accept students with, say, 60% grades for a biological sciences or a life sciences program. But now, for the same program, even with the 75% that have been denials, right? That means the admission requirement has changed. Earlier, for example, in a particular university in India, to do engineering, you required the three sciences. But a recent conversation has been that, hey, only math and physics are enough. We don't need a third science there. So admission change has happened. Or say in the Netherlands, where maybe last year direct admissions based on grades was happening. Now this year there was an entrance exam which came in. So admission requirements are changing, and maybe I am not good at taking entrance examinations. I am better at giving direct admissions where I write essays, my teachers write letters, and I use my 3 years of grades from school, and that works better for me. So requirements in terms of admissions are also causing another factor that you need to think about before you do your application. There's a lot of stress that parents and students less, I feel. Parents are worried more around the safety and security of another country. Should I send my child far off? Should I keep them near me? Would the travel be okay? Would the airspaces close down and they might not be able to come home? Would they be stuck in another country? So there's so many stressors about safety and the future currently. Whether there are job opportunities in a country after they finish, what are the return on investments. There's a lot of stress around multiple factors there as well. So one advice which I would give you is talk to the counselors that you have in school or outside school. It doesn't matter. Talk to an adult who can guide you through the process, whose daily job is to deal with these kind of points. Where to go, how to prepare for it, why to go somewhere, why not to go somewhere. How can you identify whether I would survive and thrive in country J rather than country G, right? I'm using random names so that I don't bring out my biases against or for a certain country. So I'm using just alphabets. Talk to the counselors and alumni who've gone to different universities around the world. They are the best. Reason that they don't know everything, but they have enough experience across many many years, and that's what they do on a daily basis. They read a lot about it, they talk to people in the industry, they talk to students from different countries, they talk to their own students across many many years, they connect to universities who tell them a lot about the job scenario. They informally also find out through following bloggers from a particular country. So they understand that, hey, if I go to St. John's in Canada, which is the East Coast, where it snows 8 months a year, is there an Indian restaurant? Would I get, Ethiopian food? Would I get somebody from my community? How do I get to know? A lot of us actually follow bloggers and we get to know the day to day life as well. So talk to people, who have knowledge about it and can guide you through the process, can facilitate the process. Okay. Tanvi, can we move to the next slide? Okay. Now, coming to, how do we make choices? How do we make decisions? Where do we even start? Right? Sometimes you would have a student and a parent in, say, grade 9, 10, sometimes even class 12. It doesn't really matter. Everybody has a different starting point, and it depends on your personal context. So, how do you know where do I want to go and what do I want to study? So we begin with a very general conversation about, that which country is the most fascinating for you. Do you want to live near family? Do you want to live far away from family? When you think of university education, what are the things which come to mind? What kind of classroom? What kind of city? What kind of weather? What are your dream destinations? You must have heard from alumni, from teachers, from parents, extended relatives, family members. Everybody, means well and gives you advice. So, we begin starting from there. Reflection of who am I? What do I want? What are my expectations out of university for myself? And whether I will fit into the places that I'm thinking about. So start with a really broad kind of your conversation, and then you start researching. So for example, if I talk about myself, I live in India, and I want to go away from home because I've lived enough with my parents and I want to explore my independence. But I know my parents can afford only say 20,000 US dollars a year, nothing beyond that. Then I look at countries which kind of fit into that budget, so far enough, but yet fit into the budget as well. Okay. So we start from there, and then we start researching universities, scholarships, all those kind of things, and we begin the research process. So I may look at multiple countries which give scholarships, and hence it comes into my budget. Or I may look at just countries which fit into the budget where I can go without a scholarship too. Talk to my parents, before I start researching, because they are also an important stakeholder. So start researching very thoroughly and try start to do that as early as end of grade 10 and beginning of grade 11, so that you have enough time, roughly the whole of grade 11, to prepare whatever is required to get admission into a particular university in a particular country, and never do one application. Okay, so research and narrow down on what, where, and how much will it cost. So maybe a list of say 20 universities, 25 universities across 2 or 3 countries, and create an Excel sheet where you keep a record of the name of the country, the name of the university, what are the admission requirements, what subjects do I need to study, what major do I want to study, do I need to take SAT, do they give scholarships, what are the tuition fees. So create an Excel sheet, and that is what your research will look like. And do that in grade 11, and finish it off maybe a few months before grade 11 finishes. Then do a risk assessment, compare. You have a list of 20. Now compare and contrast. What are the costs, what are the safety issues, what are the security issues, what are the visa regulations, can I stay back? So do a risk assessment of safety and costs both. Okay, and again, I think we are saying that again and again, that seek guidance. Okay, content, knowledge, information, facts, you will find in a lot of different places. You can do online research, you'll find it. But to navigate all the information that you have to help you make the correct choices, you would need guidance from somebody who's gone through the process, or somebody who does that work on a daily basis. Again, have flexibility. It's important that we are always prepared for change of plans, because sometimes we plan, but the situation might change. My parents might have said that, hey, you can go to a university which costs 20,000, but then family circumstances might change, there might be some difficulties which come up, or on the other side, the parents may go through a really profitable time and they may have extra profit, and their budget can go up. Or you have access to sponsors, family members who are ready to support you, or banks who are willing to give you loans, or you get a scholarship, right? So plans can change. So be open to the idea of changing your plans, not in terms of major that you want to study, but in terms of where you want to study. Then the next slide, please. So once you've done your research, this is just 2 countries. You can have 3 countries, 4 countries, and then make a comparison chart, which tells you, comparatively which country will cost you how much. How does it compare to the budget that I have in mind? Combining my parental contribution, my own savings, maybe my grandparents who might be contributing, or an education loan that you might have access to, or a federal or a government loan that you can access. Compare multiple options in terms of cost of living and the cost of education. Also, compare the safety and security of different countries. The definition of safety and security is different for different people. So, don't rely on a third person to tell you. Talk to your parents. So, for you, what is security? For you, what is safety? Look at the job opportunities that you have. whether you can work while you study, you can't work while you're studying, how important it is for you to study while you work. And also after finishing, which kind of jobs are available, and will you be able to stay back and work over there. What is the quality of education? Quality of education, how can you judge? You can look at multiple ranking systems around the world. There are many, many ranking systems around the world. You can talk to the university representatives through a webby fair like this, where you can go to their rooms and ask them questions. What kind of researches are you doing? What have your professors studied? What are they good at? What are the kind of activities that you're doing, which are academic in nature, non-academic in nature? Will I be able to do research as an undergrad or a postgrad student? So you can ask questions from universities directly. Go on their website and also read up. So check the quality of education and the credibility of the university that you are planning to go to. So these are the factors that you can compare across different countries and universities based on the initial research. Okay, Tanvi, next slide. This is the last one. Okay. Backup plan is the most important thing, as we said earlier. I'll give you an example of my school. Our class 12 students, we had like a handful of students who had planned to study in the Middle East. And then the circumstances changed, right? Or, they planned to study in, say, Hong Kong. But the circumstances changed and they could not go due to financial reasons or due to a geopolitical situation or due to the parents feeling that the child is not mature enough to handle another country and another culture. So all of a sudden they had to change their plans, and you look at the plan B's and C's, which was another country, and it could be your own country. So don't close options at the beginning of the process. Keep plan B, C's, D's ready. So if plan A doesn't work out, you know that in case I get plan A clear, I get the visa, I'm getting admission, everything, and I go great. But if that doesn't happen, then what will be my plan B? Will I look at alternate destinations? If yes, what other countries, are you going to look at? Would you want to do online studies? Would you not want to do online studies? Everybody has different, ways of looking at online courses too. Would you want to stay back home and, study at universities in your own city, your own country, want to do internships? So always keep a plan B in mind when you're doing applications to universities. Um, I'm going to stop here and have a quick look at the questions in the chat box and see if we can answer a few of them. Tanvi, would you want to read them out and I could
Yeah,
start answering?
sure, sure, sure. We have a very good question from Shamita. So Shamita is asking, what factors should I prioritize when choosing a country during unstable times? And is it better to study abroad now or wait for more stability?
Okay, Shamita, that's a great question and one of the most difficult questions that parents and students are attempting to answer, and a difficult one for counselors to answer as well, because the question differs from person to person. The answer will also differ. For example, if I was planning to go to country A, and I have no relatives there. And country A currently is facing a major housing crisis. Okay, so me and my parents did our research. I've got admission there. The funding is matching up, and but there's a great housing crisis over there. And I feel that okay, I'm not getting housing, so how am I going to live there? So, but then I have relatives with whom I can maybe bunk in for say a period of 6 months or to a year. So that person might actually go to that country A, right? But there could be another student where they are going to country C, where there is a job crisis, say post study work is not available currently. They have no relatives in that place, and also flights are not going there, around the time that I am doing my applications. So in that case, the parent might feel that okay, jobs are not available there, flights are not going there. there is uncertainty, and hence for me it is better to stay back in my home country and then go maybe 2 years later or 4 years later. So the answer is going to be different based on the personal context. Okay, and what is important to you and what is not important to you. Sometimes I have family there, and even in unstable times, I know that I have the stability of my community and my family in that country, and I would be perfectly fine in going. So it would be different answers for different people. I wish I could give you one answer. If I knew the context, I would be able to most probably facilitate it better.
That's perfect. So we also have a question from Athira, who's asking, to what extent does a background in an international school curriculum facilitate a smoother academic and social transition to local higher education institutions?
Hmm. Okay. I would be a bit biased. I work in an IB school, but I've studied in an national curriculum ISC school myself. Um, so I would say, an international school with, an international curriculum actually eases out a lot of things, because you are studying a curriculum which is, being studied across the world. You meet people similar in terms of preparation for university. You do a lot of pre-university skills like research, writing, presentations. You understand things like plagiarism, critical analysis, critical thinking. These are, a lot embedded in the international school curriculum currently. Whereas when it comes to, the other traditional state board or national curriculums in any country for that matter, the curriculum still is going through transition. But there are great students in every curriculum. Okay, so a good student is a good student in any curriculum, and if they have the skill sets and the ability to work hard, ability to learn, and willingness to learn, they will be able to transition. It will be a little more bumpy than maybe a child who's better prepared in an international curriculum with the pre-university skills, but both curriculums can manage.
Perfect. Okay, so we have one more question from Aishwarya. Uh, Very interesting. So she's asking, what mistakes do students usually make when planning to study abroad?
The biggest mistake is, that instead of finding the best university for themselves, they try to find the best university in the world. That is one of the biggest mistakes that people make. So, as I was saying, a particular brand of jeans, I was telling this earlier to Shweta, will maybe look really good on me because it's a plus size brand and I am fat and I have a different kind of physique and body, and I am, old, right? But the same jeans, same brand, same style will not be liked by a 17-year-old, 16-year-old, right? So what is it about? It's a fit, right? So that's the biggest mistake that people make, that they look at others, they look at the list of the best universities and they assume that's the best one for them, whereas it is not the case. The best one for you is the way where you will fit in. So you have know yourself. I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, I'm a city person, I'm okay with, suburban. I like smaller classes, I like bigger classes. For me, community is really important. People who speak the same language, eat the same food, celebrate the same festivals. Or am I adventurous, and I want to explore multiple cultures and know new things? Everybody is different and nobody is right or wrong, right? So the biggest mistake is trying to fit in rather than finding your fit.
Super. We've been getting a lot of claps on that. So thank you for sharing. Okay. So we'll take this one last question, which is from Kushi. So Kushi says that I want to go study in Singapore, but in case I do not get admission there, which other countries, preferably in Asia, should I look to study corporate communication and public relations? She also is asking, is it safe to study courses like corporate communication, or should I go for safer traditional courses like BSc in economics or BBA to get good jobs, especially in Singapore?
See, the first advice that I would give you, which is very cliched, is that do what you like the most and which gives you the maximum happiness. Reason being that you would study that course for the next 3 or 4 years, and then you will find work in that space and area for the next many years of your life. People change, but there are people who are stable and go across too. So I would stick to the course of my choice, rather than change it to something more safer. um, the world is changing currently, so things evolve, whether it is in economics or BBA as you're thinking, or corporate communication, and it will evolve. So your preparation has to be readiness to learn and evolve along with it. Like for example, currently I am learning AI. When I started working, there was no internet. Okay, so from learning internet, transitioning from paper forms to online forms, and now to learning AI, it is evolution, right? So you have to be just open and willing to learning. Stick to the course which you really want to. Now, coming to the second part of the question, which other countries, preferably in Asia, I would say that, in Southeast Asia, beyond Singapore, Japan is rising and is open to students coming in from India. There's a lot of, not just India, they're open to people from around the world to come and, study there. They have an aging population, but they also have very high quality of life and learning, both. Um, you could look at Hong Kong, because in these two places the linguistic challenges are lesser compared to other countries, and they also have high quality educational institutions. There are some international campuses which are also there in Indonesia and Malaysia. You might want to explore that. There is an American university in Thailand. Webster has a campus there. You might want to explore that. You might also want to, a lot of students nowadays are exploring China as well. Amazing country, to study very high quality education. So in Asia, I think, some of the popular choices are Hong Kong and Japan currently, but the non-traditional choices, which younger generation is really comfortable with, is China, it's Indonesia, it's Thailand. Um, you can explore these few countries beyond Singapore.
Okay. Yeah, we have a lot of questions coming, but I'm just trying to prioritize which are the ones which are a little different. So we have one from this is from Shamita. So she says, I'm planning to become a researcher in biology field. Will it be hard to keep up with two different syllabus as I am focusing on IGCSE for abroad and NCERT for in India?
Okay, I didn't understand how would you focus on two different syllabuses. It means that you are studying in an IGCSE curriculum school, but you're also, reading books and preparing for maybe certain examinations from NCRT books. NCRT is not a syllabus. It's, the National Council of Education Research and Training in India. So you're actually focused on one curriculum. Maybe you are doing extra reading from NCRT course books.
Shamita, we hope that answers your question.
It's not going to be hard. It's fine. You're extending your reading by doing also NCRT research.
Okay. So, oh, so she says like different entrance exams for both abroad and India.
Yeah, see, what I have observed, and I may be wrong because it can't be the same answer for two different students, right? Because everybody's capabilities are different, potential is different, family support is of a different kind. So, nobody can predict and give an accurate answer. But from what I have observed, somebody who's studying the international curriculum is actually not preparing themselves in an aligned way to the Indian entrance examinations. Okay, so Indian entrance examinations have a different curriculum and they align more with the Indian curriculums. So definitely it's going to be challenging that way. But there are students who, do both. and are able to do it, but it's very emotionally and academically challenging.
Okay. I'm just going to take one last question. So, and students, this is last for sure. So, yeah, how do the social and psychological challenges of a new school environment affect academic performance, and what are the best strategies to overcome them?
Amazing question, more for a behavioral psychologist. But I will, just give what I think of it. Whenever you are transitioning, whether it is from one school to another in high school, which is 11th, 12th, or 9th, 10th, or you're transitioning from school to university, it is going to be a big leap, and hence you're going to leave your previous known surroundings, friends, teachers, and move to a completely new environment. It will take, a particular kind of resilience and initiative both to adapt to the new place. Okay, it's not impossible. Lot of students every year around the world transition to a new school in grade 11. Lot of kids every year, including in my school, we get students from diverse curriculums, from national curriculums where they've never done IB kind of teaching learning before. So what I always advise them is that be open minded, ask questions, don't try to unnecessarily fit in with a certain kind of student community. Be yourself, hold on to your identity. It will keep you self assured and confident. It's difficult because at your age, you need friends, you want to talk, you want to share. Um, Hold on to the strengths that you come in from the previous schools. Sometimes, students are transitioning from a national curriculum to an international one, and they just let go of the national curriculum skills. They are amazing. So when you combine the national curriculum skill sets with the international curriculum skill sets, it becomes a deadly combination and leads to very high level of success. It's going to be tough, but as I said, please retain your identity. Don't try to change. Ask a lot of questions. Don't be harsh to yourself. Be kind. Transitions are tough. And, hold on to your previous skills and add the new skills to it. So that's the strategy I would say is good and it works. It's going to be tough. You leave your friends and you move to a new place.
Sure. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your time. As you can see, we just can't get enough of you. So, yeah, it was a pleasure, like being part of this session. Thank you so much.
Thank
Um,
you so much, everybody. All the best. Hope you enjoy the Webby Fair and meet all the universities who are out there. Take care and bye bye. Thank you so much, Tanvi and Shweta.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye bye. So, students, I we really hope this was helpful. I'm sure this was very helpful for all of you. But the session is not over yet. If you still have questions, we have 14 different universities from 6 different countries on this platform. Make the most of this event. Do meet them, share your questions with them, ask them whatever you want to know about the universities, and we are going to just shut this room. So, yeah, thank you for being part of this. Bye, students.